I've made no secret of my current financial situation, so it may not surprise you to learn that I was debating for months whether or not I should buy Sonic Racing CrossWorlds to review on my channel. On one hand, covering current gaming topics is important if I want to see my channel grow, so most contemporary game purchases do come with the consideration of whether or not I will be able to make a video on them. On the other hand, I'm managing my budget pretty tightly and I don't want to make purchases out of obligation. A $70 purchase is still a $70 purchase, and I don't want to buy a game for the sole purpose of making videos. The game needs to last beyond however many hours I spend recording footage because I'm not buying many games these days, so I'd rather not waste my limited funds on games I don't actually want. So I'm glad that we had an open network test last weekend because it made the decision a whole lot easier. The network test was great because it acted as a free demo and it helped me get a better impression of the game than trailers and early reviews could give. It also helped ease my anxiety about purchasing the game for this channel because, well, now I don't want to buy it. After playing the game for a solid few hours, unlocking all the slots on the ability cards, and playing the stages beyond the 3 available in the single player, I can easily say that I just don't like Sonic Racing CrossWorlds. The gameplay is just not for me, and so I don't really want to spend $70 or more on a game that I will probably never pick up after recording B-roll. No one, not even Hatsune Miku, Pac-Man, Rouge the Bat, or Surge the Tenrec herself could convince me otherwise. But first, let's start with the positives. I think the game's presentation is alright, the aesthetics of the carts that I've seen are pretty good, and I appreciate the significantly large pool of characters to pick from. Lately, in spin-offs, there seems to be an understanding that Sonic fans like Sonic characters, even the weird deep cuts from less well-received games. I'm glad Sega aren't shying away from their colorful cast. I generally like the track aesthetics as well, even if Colorful Mall really does feel like a blatant rip-off. I do also appreciate the return of extreme gear, even if they are just an aesthetic. And with that, I've concluded the nice things I have to say about Sonic Racing CrossWorlds. I want to start by talking about the extreme gear. There's a good chance that if you've subscribed to me, it's from my still popular video on Sonic Riders. You might have even been champing at the bit to hear my take on the return of extreme gear. After seeing Extreme Gear formally showcased in a trailer, I had some reason to feel excited about the game, but I quickly tempered my expectations. Kart racing games and Sonic Riders have significant differences in mechanics, including their starting mechanics, control, and especially aerial mechanics. Sonic Riders has a whole fuel and boost system that just doesn't exist in other Sonic racing games. The two gameplay styles cannot seamlessly merge, so either we were going to get a kart racer where extreme gear were a type of kart, or a Sonic Riders game where karts were a type of extreme gear. Given that the name of the game is Sonic Racing and not Sonic Riders, and also all the trailer footage I had seen of just karts, I figured it was the former option. My hope was that Extreme Gears would be the Mario Kart bikes of this game, having lower weight classes and top speeds but generally tighter handling and acceleration. Unfortunately, this was not the case. It has been noted by many people that handling in Sonic Racing CrossWorlds feels bad. Turning radiuses are incredibly wide even when drifting or using a dedicated handling type vehicle. Extreme Gear do not exist in the handling class, but rather the special boost class, which seems to mean they get slightly better trick and drift boosts than every other kart. So, CrossWorlds is thoroughly and unequivocally a kart racing game, which is what I expected. Honestly, if you thought this would secretly be the return of Sonic Riders gameplay, you're a fucking moron. You lost at chess to a dog who was asleep in a different room. But, evaluating CrossWorlds as a kart racer, how does it stack up? Well, right off the bat you need to choose Supersonic Racing as the speed tier, at minimum, because otherwise the game feels sluggish and will give you a bad impression. This was the highest tier available to me in the network test, and even this at times felt slow. There are some interesting ideas present in the game's mechanics. You can customize vehicles and ability loadouts to add depth to the game, and it even does what I had mentioned in a previous video where the customization is a separate menu, and you have pre-built loadouts as well as saved custom vehicles to make getting into races faster. This is game design I've specifically asked for, so I need to commend a job well done on this one. I can't give full marks for the abilities loadout, however. I don't appreciate needing to complete 12 races in order to fully unlock all the ability slots. Given that you already have to keep racing to unlock better abilities, this seems needlessly tedious. Since you're starting out with such strict limitations, it hampers the first impression significantly. In concept, you have 6 ability slots to choose from in order to customize your loadout, but in practice, you only have 3. This is due to one specific 3-cost ability, Enhanced Damage Recovery. As many have noted even before the network test, items are incredibly pervasive throughout the game, and offensive items can feel downright oppressive with how long they make you recover before you regain control. The Enhanced Item Recovery ability is like night and day, which is a problem. Most other abilities allow you to pick a specific mechanic or stat to enhance, and they're balanced by the fact that you aren't always using those mechanics. Increased air trick speed, for instance, allows you to maximize your trick boosts, but since you aren't constantly surrounded by ramps, you aren't constantly in an advantage state. Enhanced slipstreams and bumper boosting are great for catching up when you're behind, but do nothing when you're in first place. Items are always a threat, no matter what part of any track you're on, and no extra ability is better than minimizing item threat. This is probably the most unbalanced decision in the game. If you have the enhanced recovery ability and others don't, then you have essentially chosen to balance the game in your favor since items simply hurt you less. There aren't even any negative trade-offs to this ability, it just makes offensive items used against you less potent. This ability feels like such a centralizing mechanic that it seems like it shouldn't be an ability at all. The better course of action would have simply been to reduce the potency of item damage, rather than making that balancing decision an equipable ability. All other abilities center around choosing your playstyle and which specific mechanics you want to engage with most, but the reduced item damage feels more like choosing whether or not you're playing with a post-launch balance patch. I also want to touch on the air trick system, which bafflingly does away with the risk-reward system. This isn't even me complaining that the game isn't like Sonic Riders. Team Sonic Racing, the previous Sonic kart racer, had a risk-reward system with the air tricks. Doing more tricks is supposed to maximize your trick boost. In previous Sonic Racing games, landing in the middle of a trick would slow you down and you wouldn't get any boost. This meant you had to be aware of your vehicle's falling speed and do some quick calculations in your head about how many tricks you could fit into a jump. You couldn't just roll the control stick mindlessly, you had to engage with the mechanic and learn its intricacies. Now there's no penalty for starting tricks too late, the tricks just won't start if you're about to land. You can, as I often did, just mindlessly roll the sticks to perform maximal tricks with no consequence. Finally, I want to talk about the accessibility options, specifically auto-acceleration. I tried for a bit to play with auto acceleration on. I'm not disabled by any stretch, but sometimes I do find that racing games have me clutching the acceleration button in a way that causes hand cramps over time. I toggled on auto accelerate so that the accelerator would be mainly my button for the starting boost, but to my surprise that's not how the mechanic actually works. Auto accelerate pushes your vehicle forward at half speed, and you only get the full acceleration if you once again hold down the button. My question here is simple. Who is this for? If auto accelerate is supposed to be for people with disabilities or whose hands cramp easily, then why does the mechanic still require you to constantly hold down the button in order to get full acceleration? If the worry is that having the accelerator at full throttle will make certain turns difficult at higher speed settings, might I suggest adding a brake button? Because, by the way, there are no brakes in this game. The button layout and driving mechanics are more simplistic than even Mario Kart. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, at its highest speed, asks you to selectively use the brakes when drifting to allow for tighter turns, which seems to me like it would be the solution to any problems full throttle auto acceleration might cause. It's not like there's even a balancing concern. The option would be available to literally all players, and any players who have it off would probably be constantly holding down the accelerator anyway. There's literally no excuse for half-assing an accessibility option. It has no effect on the players who won't use it, and just insults the players who actually need it. Overall, my impressions of the game is that it's alright, but not worth $70 plus DLC. I will probably eventually buy the game when it goes on sale, but if it takes too long to do so, then I'll have essentially waited until the online scene has mostly died out. In terms of kart races, honestly I'd rather be playing Mario Kart or Sonic Racing Transformed. In terms of Sega racing games, well, I'd prefer Sonic Riders or Daytona. And speaking of Daytona, some of you were mentioning in my comments that the Daytona team supposedly had a hand in this game, and I just don't see it. What I did see is the recently released promotional animation, which had a lot of focus on characters' gear shifting, a mechanic which I pointed out would be well suited to a Sonic racing game, and which does not exist in Sonic Racing CrossWorlds. But that's all I have to say for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll return for the next video. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll once again be in the Metal City, straight up riding it. And by it, well, let's just say, my extreme gear.